everybody. Welcome to the new season of the Bo Knows Business. I am your host, Nick Kober, and oh my God, I am just so excited about telling you all of these amazing stories of Black women entrepreneurs who have scaled their businesses over $1 million. They're here. They're telling about their stories. We did it season 1. We had phenomenal stories, and we're going to kick this season off right. All right. My girl, Melinda, the small biz lady Emerson, is joining us. What better way to start season 2 of Bo Knows Business? Come on up, girlfriend.
Hey there.
How are you? Woohoo!
I am so happy to be here.
Listen, this is phenomenal. We have had a tremendous first season of the Bo Knows Business, and it has been the highlight of my year to really get to know the behind the scenes stories of my amazing Bo sisters. But to start this season off with the queen of small business, I mean, I could not have planned this better. Thank you for joining us today.
Oh gosh, it's my pleasure to be here.
All right, girl. So you know the scoop. You know how we do things here. We are very informal, but we really want our audience to know that, businesses are not just, we don't just kind of pop out of thin air. It takes a lot of sacrifice, a lot of seasons in our story. And we want to start with the first season. I want to start with little Melinda. We want to know about your childhood, girl. Tell us where you were born. What was your family like? And the real question there is, did you see anything now looking back as a child that you're like, maybe there was a seed of entrepreneurship that was planted then?
Oh gosh, yeah, definitely. So my parents are from the deep South. I was born actually in Huntsville, Alabama.
Okay.
My dad is from Alabama. My mother's from Mississippi. And 2 months after I was born, my dad graduated from Alabama A&M and got transferred to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, which is where I grew up. I am the oldest of 4. I have 3 younger brothers. And, I grew up in Pittsburgh in the 80s. It was a really interesting time, though, because a lot of people think that the South is, a really rough place for, young Black kids to grow up. Well, I will tell you, I found Pittsburgh to be a rather rough place to grow up, because to be in a northern city, I very much, at a very young age, faced a lot of racial discrimination and racial teasing. I was one of 12 Black families in our whole school district. So being the only kid on the trip, being the only Black kid in the class was a very regular thing. But then also, being picked on and being called names. I mean, honestly, Nick, I didn't even think I was attractive until I got into the 11th grade, because I had just been picked on that much that I didn't realize that I was beautiful, right? Of course, my parents told me that all the time, but your
What
parents.
about your brothers? Like, I know, but you're the older sister.
I was the
I'm
oldest.
the older sister too. Did they have your back? What's up with that?
They were younger, right? And so I was 2 years ahead of my next brother in school. So I was the first one to go through the system. And it was harder for me as a girl. I think it was a little bit easier for my brothers because they were athletes. So people gravitated them and liked them because they were athletes. Well, I wasn't. I mean, I played softball. I was a cheerleader for 1 year. But, even those things weren't fun because of how people treated me. So I, for one, when I graduated, I wouldn't even think of even going to a college that anyone from my high school was even thinking about. So I was looking out of state. I was looking at Northwestern. I was looking at Virginia Tech. I was looking at Duke, right? I was like, I got to get out of Pittsburgh. And so I ended up going to Virginia Tech, and it turned out it wasn't my first choice school. It was my second choice school. Because I didn't get into my first choice school. But let me tell you something. My father told me that I needed to go someplace where somebody wanted me.
Oh.
And I was like, because he said,
that is the word.
He said, schools don't make people.
Yes.
People make schools. He said, Virginia Tech will be famous one day because you went there.
I know that's right, Dad.
in telling me that, he just lift my little chin up off the ground,
Yes. Yes.
but I love telling that story because, around college time, all these kids have all this
All
anxiety.
that anxiety, right?
Like, listen, it doesn't matter.
Mm.
You're going to make it great wherever you go. It honestly doesn't matter. And so, but going back to my dad and my mom, my father was a career salesman. He worked for 30 years for Kraft Foods. My dad was such a good salesman. I mean, he could sell ice to an Eskimo. I mean, he was that good. He actually used to have a part-time job at the Sears in the electronics department. Like, I was the first kid on the block to have a CD player. I felt so privileged, right?
Oh, I love it. I love it.
We used to go to the mall on Saturdays and watch my dad close people. Like, he was so
It was
good.
an experience, huh?
Oh, he was so smooth. I mean, it was just like, wow. And so I feel like that sales killer instinct is like in me from him. But my mom was the entrepreneur because my mom was a stay-at-home mom until I was 10 years old.
Okay.
But she sold copper. She sold Tupperware. She sold Metaluca. My mom even took a class.
You said she sold Tupperware and she sold what else?
Metaluca. You remember that?
Metaluca, yes.
She sold Mary Cat. She even went to community college and learned how to reupholster people's furniture. No, and then she was an amazing seamstress. Like, she sewed every prom dress I ever wore. So then she was like doing alterations and stuff. And I was like, but the funny thing about my mom is that she never made any money in any of her businesses because she was always a sucker for a sob story. And my dad used to be like, your mama will help anybody. Stray dog, stray cat, stray person. Your mama don't care. Your mama will help anybody.
Oh my gracious. Oh my, no. And you know what? I love this so much because I'm like, it's like the superpowers coming together and having the super baby. And now I know all of, how your advocacy for small business. Okay, we're not going to get ahead of myself, but I see it because guess what? You are your mother's daughter, but you are also your father's. And so you're not letting these small businesses get played, know their value. Oh my gosh, I know the story is coming, but that is so amazing. I love it. I love it. Oh, well, so let's talk about, okay, we went through that first amazing chapter. We know what was your major? What was your major at Virginia Tech?
Broadcast journalism. I was a journalist.
Broadcast journalism. Okay. Yeah. All righty. So tell us about your phase before entrepreneurship. What skills that you possess? What did you do? And how did you make that transition to being an entrepreneur?
So when I was in college, I had the opportunity to do 3 internships. I worked for the Today Show in New York. I worked for ABC News in London Bureau. And I worked for CBS Evening News in Washington over one winter break. So I was very fortunate that I got my first job out of college as an associate producer in the top 20 television market. So I was a producer for the NBC affiliate in Pittsburgh, actually in my hometown. And so
what was it like going back?
Actually, it was like my worst nightmare because Pittsburgh was not where I wanted to go. I was interviewing for jobs at DC.
Like, please.
I did not. I interviewed for jobs in New York. I was interviewing for production assistant jobs, Page at NBC. I was willing to do anything. And I went to the NABJ convention and met a woman who got me a job at WPXI in TV in my hotel, but which was fine. My parents were thrilled to have me back. Of course, I wasn't even making enough money to get my own apartment, so I had to go back and live with them. So all those things like after school.
Your stair step. That was your first gig. I love it, girl.
But I really learned a lot, and because I started in Market 20. My next jump from there was to Philadelphia, to the number 4 television market. And literally, that was such an epic shift in my career. And I got that job when I was 23 years old. And so I ended up, being like the youngest producer in a top 5 market in the country. And that was good and bad, because sometimes Doogie Howser gets picked on, right? Sometimes being the youngest and people kind of know it, then people go out of their way to kind of make you look like you don't know what you're doing. So I didn't really enjoy it. And it's funny because it was like my dream job. Yes. It was like I wanted to work in top market television. I wanted to, do that and eventually get to network and and it was like, By the third station I was at, I was like,
You
wow,
were
you know
like
what?
this.
I'm
Yeah.
going to be the big story on Action News if I don't get out of here.
Right.
You know, and I also
Yes.
realized that I was meant to do more. You know,
More. Yes.
like you get a job and it's like bleeds, it leads, and you writing all these news stories, and it was just like, I know I can do more than this. I know
Yes.
that I was meant to do more. So
Yes.
when I was 26 years old, February 1999, I gave them people their job back.
I know you
You
did.
know, basically they tried to usher me out the door and I beat them to it. It was like, oh, I tell you
Right.
what,
Right. Right. Deuces.
I grabbed my Rolodex off my desk and dropped it in my purse and walked out the
And
door.
walked on out.
And that was the best thing I ever could have done for myself. But also, I will say, I planned it a year before I did it. Right.
Yeah.
So I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur. So I took out a home equity loan. I paid off all my bills.
Your dad.
I
Yes.
moved my brother in my house. He became my tenant, paid half my mortgage. Right. So I set myself up so that I would have assets and
Mhm.
savings so that I could pursue my dream. So my first business, Quintessence Entertainment, actually was a video production company. Because what would a television producer start?
Yes. No, you know, absolutely.
So I've literally been developing content my entire life, my entire career.
Yes.
But then as the technology changed over the years, we morphed into doing websites and video production because we realized everybody was putting our videos on the web anyways. We were like, well, we better get in the business of building these websites. So we did that, and we did that for a couple of years, and we really started to do well. My husband at the time was able to quit his full-time job at GE and join our business. We had offices in downtown Philadelphia. Literally, Philly has a mini version of the Inc. 5000. It's called the Philly 100, and we made number 29 on the Philly 100, the fastest growing small businesses in Philadelphia. We were doing amazing. And all of a sudden, I got pregnant with my son. And you would think, I mean, I was 32,
Mhm.
healthy. You know, we'd been married 5 years. It was all good. Well, it wasn't. I ended up with a high risk pregnancy
Okay.
on bed rest. They thought my child had a heart condition. They had me up at the hospital every single week getting testing. And back then, you know, I want you to get in your time machine with me and go
Yeah.
back
Yeah.
to 2005. Wi-Fi wasn't in everybody's house.
You're right.
It was like I just got sent home. And
Mm,
that's all I had to do. I mean, literally, and then I was scared to death, right? You know,
yes.
we were sort of like the last of our group of friends that had a kid. And so we had seen other people have some tragic circumstances. And so we were like, okay, all
Yeah.
right, we got to focus. I got to get this baby here. But it was interesting because in that time when God sent me home to be on my couch, because that's exactly where I was, I started writing down all the expensive lessons that I had learned in my business. And man, the list was like, woo! I mean, it was a long list. I mean, I had done a bunch of dumb stuff, wasted money, hired the wrong people. I mean,
Tell us, tell us if you can remember what was one. I won't say what was the first, but what was the first? What's the first thing that comes to mind? One of your lessons that you wrote down during that season.
the first one was I built a business that couldn't run without me. When I got pulled out of my business, we almost lost my business that year. And it was like, I also realized in my business that I had a bunch of doers, but I didn't have anybody else thinking about how my business made money except for me. And so when I wasn't there doing that, everybody proactively did anything I asked them to do, but nobody did anything to help. Nobody did anything intentionally.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so it was just so hard. But in that moment though, when I finally stopped, I mean, the other thing I will say in confession is that back then I was probably the worst workaholic you ever met. Like literally, you could call my office at 9 o'clock at night and people would answer the phone like it was 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I mean, it was just kind of ridiculous. And so for me, I needed to make sure that the next business I built, because I knew after I had my son and I financially recovered from what happened that year, that I had to figure out something else that I could do. But I am a praying woman. And so I went to my pastor and told him that I was like, I don't know what to do next, but I don't want to go back to doing that. I got this baby now. And, you know, and by the way, my marriage was crumbling too at the time. So it was like all these.
I knew there was it when it rains, of course.
Yeah, so it was like I was having my Mariah Carey meltdown, right? And I was like 33. And so I was like, okay, Lord, I got to figure out what it is you want me to do. And I was always somebody that had a plan A, plan B, and plan C. Always. Never did
Always.
you catch me flat footed. But this caught me flat footed because I really wasn't clear on what it was I was supposed to do. And then my pastor said, well, have you been praying about it? And I was like, no, I just been worried about it. He
You've
said,
been worried.
he said, how about you try that? And literally I prayed every day for like 2.5 months. And eventually, God gave me a vision and a dream 3 times to become America's #1 small business expert.
Oh my gracious. Oh my gracious.
And I mean, and then after that, once I got it, he had to show it to me 3 times because I didn't understand it the first 2 times, right?
I want you, that resonates so much with me. One of our Bow sisters, Gina Baker, she had a reoccurring dream, and it was only the picture of like a crane or a bulldozer. And she had this as a child. It gave her nightmares. It was this crane or this bulldozer. She went through all her education, all her jobs, and development was the thing that she's like, you know what? I can do this. And one day she showed up and the crane was real and she sobbed like a baby. She was like, I was running from this my whole life, this scary thing. And it was a sign, girl.
Let me tell you, it is amazing when you figure out what your purpose is.
Yes.
You really,
Say that.
I mean, and it was like he put it on my heart, but then he had to remind me who I was because in all that had been going on, Jojo was like not even, he was like 1, so it's all, Joe and I were breaking up and all this stuff was going on, and he was like, wait a minute.
Yes.
Let me point something out to you. And so he said, I want you to evaluate your business. And I did. And after I evaluated my business, what I figured out was the most valuable thing in my business was what I learned from running. And so then he was like, okay, well, how about you bottle and sell that?
Yes.
And at the time, nobody was in mass media talking about small business.
Small business. Yeah.
We had Susie Orman and Gene Chasky.
She was more personal finance.
These guys were talking about personal finance. There was nobody saying, hey, if you got an idea, I'm going to give you the roadmap to hit it big.
Yes.
So literally, it was almost like every job I ever had prepared me to do that job.
I want to ask you a question there because you said with your first business, the challenge was that you were the business, right? And when you stepped away from it, the other people that you had, they were doers, they weren't able to execute. How have you, especially in the personal branding, and I've talked to a couple people recently about making that shift to personal branding. How is this model different, and how have you prepared yourself for scaling beyond the small business lady?
Yeah, well, it's interesting that you asked me that question because that is something that I have actually strategically been working on the last 2 years because I thought I had done it again. Like, oh Lord, I done built another business that can't survive without me. But what we have done is we have built Small Biz Lady University.
Yes.
We now have tons of courseware, and we're actually known. Corporations come to us and hire us to build courses. I have built courses for Skillshare, for Verizon, for AWeber, for Root. Like, they come to us and say, we know that you know our audience, and we want to partner with you to build some strategic content that's going to grow our audience. And so that has become an expertise that I have. We have been able to license my content, my courses. We have built strategic relationships with Drexel University. Some of my courses are going to be offered through Drexel University, and they're not being taught by me. They have facilitators that are teaching them. So again, that was how we figured out, because we said, okay, I have all this expertise. I have all this content. I have over 5,000 articles I've written about how to start and grow a successful small business, and probably 50 ebooks and slide decks and everything else. And I was like, well, what can we do? And then I said, someone said to me, well, Melinda, you do have a specific methodology of teaching people entrepreneurship. And there are people
Yeah.
who might want to get certified in your methodology, right? And so step is we're growing up a whole collection of certified small business lady coaches and things like that. So now we're building out the business beyond me.
Yes.
We also have another product that we've created called bossquiz.com, which we built in partnership with a behavioral science company that actually gives people actual data about what their strengths are.
And I love it.
Be the right business for them. Literally, it is a 12-page report that people get. It's not some quiz marketing program. Yeah. It's an actual amazing report. And so that's another.
Does it tell them if they have the DNA for entrepreneurship? Does it go that focused?
Oh, it does. It tells them there's 4 kinds of entrepreneurs out here. You're either a power player, you're a change maker, you're a team builder, or you're a freedom seeker. And it will tell you based upon that if perhaps a business partner might be right for you. Maybe a franchise business would be better for you than right. And then it evaluates things like your sales skills, your core values. Like it really, really digs in and tells you some. And I'm thinking to myself, where was this thing when I was starting? I mean, because can you imagine if you knew this much about yourself when you first started in business? We had to learn this stuff about ourselves the hard way, right?
Hard knock way for sure.
Right. So it's like this tool is actually going to arm people with information. Yes. And it'll also allow you to say to yourself, okay, do I want to buy an existing business versus, do I want to talk to a franchise broker that might help me figure out the right franchise for me? Or do I straight up want to be matched with franchisors that I might be a good fit for? I mean, this tool can do all of those things. And so I am so excited about it because this is my growth plan. I say this is my retirement plan, right? This is what I'm doing.
I love it.
Scale my business so that it's not just me. Yes, I will always do keynote speeches and things like that and webinars, but that is not our bread and butter business. And certainly we still have our consulting practice. So we work with Fortune 500 companies that target small business owners. So we have worked with over 150 corporate brands on just that. So I'm so proud of our track record. And, our clients are the businesses that you guys have heard of, Amazon, Amex, Verizon, UPS, FedEx. I mean, on and on and on, Chase, on and on. So I'm very proud of the business that we have built and the reputation that we have built, not just as an advocate for small business, but as someone that can really help corporations understand how to better serve their small business customers, because there's a real trust gap. And I don't know that all the corporations really get that small business owners are always giving them the side eye. I don't think they
No, you're right. And so if you're in there showing them the small business love language, how to like, know, and trust and frame those good narratives, that's amazing. That's amazing. Well, of course, we're at 23 minutes already, and I haven't been able. Well, I'm gonna leave you with the last word, but it's all about the bow. I want you to talk to our audience about, because you've given them so many pearls about their own self-empowerment, how to grow the business, your lessons learned. What are your hopes for this Bow Collective and this organization that you have founded?
Oh gosh, listen, I think the sky is the limit for Bow members because we have done amazing things by ourselves. But collectively, if we can grow our numbers to 1,000, 2,000 Black women businesses that are over $1 million in revenue, we will not be able to be stopped. We just won't. And I just can't wait. I'm so excited.
Woohoo. Well, thank you, sister. I have you as my right or my left hand. I don't know which one that I bugged you the most, but you have your insight, your finger on the pulse of the small business community. You have helped create this sisterhood, and I am just so grateful. Listen, I sent that email out at about 11:30 one night, and like 11:35, you were the first one that responded. And I am just so, so grateful for your friendship and your sisterhood.
Well, it was such a great idea that was so incredibly long overdue. And I mean, it's just such a wonderful group, and everyone is just so willing to share and support. And it's amazing. Like there's all these things that people think that women can't work together, black women can't work together. Well, that's a lie because we work together and we love helping each other make money, and it's a beautiful thing.
Absolutely. Can you tell our audience how to stay connected with you?
Absolutely. I am Small Biz Lady on most social media platforms. So please go out there and follow me. I am Melinda Emerson on LinkedIn. So please come and connect with me. And if you're looking for more information about how to start and grow your successful business, head on over to succeedasyourownboss.com and you get all of our information and more information about Small Biz Lady University.
Thank you, sister. Thank you so much.
Oh, it was my pleasure.
And that concludes another episode of Bo Knows Business. Please, please share this information with a friend. We are building a beautiful tribe of amazing small business owners, and we're sharing our secrets, and we're so glad that you join us. Take care.